Something just ain't right. You know it just ain't right. Something just ain't right. Come on, Rockfin. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right. Happy Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you're new, I want to let you know that Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Sabby and JB show, and you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and every other Sunday. I want to give a shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble, and welcome back, guys. As you can imagine, we have quite a bit to get into tonight. We will do call in tonight after the show, as I imagine you guys would probably want to, considering the news. But tonight's theme, ladies and gentlemen, is something ain't right. We're not even going to go with correct grammar on this one. Not something isn't right, something ain't right. And I think you'll see when we get into the stories, something is very fishy. There's some fishy things going on, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get started by giving shout outs to people in the chat. Greetings, CBC voters, says happy Tuesday, Sabby and Eric. What's up? Shout out to Larez, says hi, Sabby, Eric, Corey, and RBN fam. So much hypocrisy on social media about last night's shooting. Israel stands are grandstanding on this, of course. Smash the like, y'all. Yes. I don't think people realize like the things that are about to happen. So I'll go through that tonight. There's quite a bit that is going to take place. Thank you, Tim. This is effing ridiculous. We live in a country of psychopath. There is no more bring awareness to it. They see it. They don't give a F. Shame. A live stream genocide. I'm livid. Love ya, Sabs. Shout out to Hannah, says, sup, guys. Greetings, Kimi says, let's go. Roll that beautiful doobie doobie doo music. Evening, Eric. And of course, our hostess with the mostest, Sabby. Love, we need a doobie doobie dance. Well, hopefully we'll be able to dance about something tonight because we'll try to get the heavy stories out of the way first. How about that? Greetings, Bird says, Nola is whack. Shout out to Mark says, Sabby. Hello, Mark. Greetings, Yin Yang. Sabby's website is amazing and serious. Well, thank you. A model example for many others growing in this movement to follow. I'm impressed, but there's still even more to come because she's getting started. Oh, thank you, Yin Yang. I appreciate that. Shout out to Jimmy says, hi, y'all. Greetings, all one same says, Larry Wilkerson says the ICC is falling apart. The U.S. is destroying humanitarian law. Yikes. Yep. There's a lot happening, folks. Greetings, Crom says, peace, love, Sabby. Shout out to Saul says, doobie doo, y'all. Piers Morgan should have to fight Trump to get forgiveness. Shout out to Mike says, Sabby 100. Greetings, C. Shada says, hey, Sabby. Shout out to Corey says, good evening, Sabby crew. Greetings, Ali said, what? Pierce is a useful idiot. No more? We'll get into it. Greetings, Casey sends solidarity and fire. Shout out to Black Rhino says, good evening, Sabby. What's up? Shout out to Walter says, is this live? Yes, I am, Walter. Greetings, Cloudness say, ayo, what's poppin', Sabby and fam? Shout out to Nini says, hello to Sabby and the chat room. Greetings, Simon says, fire. Shout out to Human Rights for All says, don't stop speaking the truth of it all. And shout out to Casey says, hit the like. Thank you. Greetings, Randy says, is an unseasonably chilly good evening, Sabby. And I think there's a fire emoji you're sending there. And revolutionary comrades. Yes, we are dealing with the nor'easter here in Massachusetts. So it's weird because it was getting warm and I was ready to put you put your winter clothes away and you get ready for the summer gear. And then all of a sudden the weather just like that just changed. And now it's like low 60s and it's raining, it's windy. So the weather has taken a different turn. A different turn. Greetings slowly says, what's up, girl? Shout out to Cincy, also sends fire. Greetings, RB Ham says, it's Zio false flag season, folks. Be prepared. Yeah. There is so much to discuss, ladies and gentlemen. We have to get into it. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and give a shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much for your support. Appreciate you. Fam, for holding down the fort. If you're interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories: ultimate, Sabinators, Sabsters. We cannot forget about the Sabbies as well. We cannot forget about them, fam. Not at all. And of course, we also have members. Thank you guys so much for your support. All of their names are listed here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. I also want to give a shout out to new Sabby patrons. Over here, we call them newbies. Let's give it up for Hugh Durkin. Hugh. Thank you guys so much. Okay. What are we talking about tonight? Let's go ahead and share that beautiful thumbnail. We will do call in after the show, so stay tuned for that. It's Thursday. We're also going to cover the craziest news stories this week, ladies and gentlemen. So tonight we are discussing Piers Morgan flips. Believe it or not. Yes. Piers Morgan. Oh my God. This made me say, oh my darling. Yeah. So big shift here from Piers Morgan. Should we believe it? We'll get into that. We're also going to discuss Jesus Christ, Donald Trump versus South Africa. President Cyril Ramaposa was here in DC to meet with Donald Trump about South African farmers. This has to be like the craziest thing that I have ever seen. We're going to go through that and debunk some things, folks. So stay tuned for that as well. We're also going to discuss Ben Shapiro karma. Has karma reached Ben Shapiro? What is happening to him and the Daily Wire? Is this the revenge of the ghost of Candace Owens? Maybe not the ghost of Candace, because Candace still alive. But I mean, like, Is this the revenge, the wrath of Candace Owens? I don't know. Candace Karma. We'll get into that. We're also going to discuss, if you have not heard by now, you're definitely going to hear it tonight. Israeli embassy staffers killed the gentleman there that you see in the green rectangle there has been arrested. His name is Elias Rodriguez. We will get into all of that, and I'll tell you what I think is going on. And we're also going to discuss the craziest story this week. This is wild. New Orleans prison break update. So there was a prison break in New Orleans. Now we have more information about that. I want to get into that story as well, because that story is crazy, to say the least. All right. Again, the theme tonight is Something Ain't Right. If you haven't done so, smash the like button. Thank you. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. Okay. Let's go ahead and dive into the first story. Oh boy. Something ain't right, folks. Something ain't right. Ever since Candace Owens was fired from the Daily Wire, things have not been going too well for them, and things have not been going too well for Ben Shapiro. And as you will see, it appears that now the Daily Wire could possibly be up for sale. I'm not joking. I'm dead serious. Is this the wrath of Candace Owens? Is this Candace Karma? Let's go ahead and get into it here, folks. The Daily Wire reportedly seeks investors, leaves door open to sale. Oh, man. Oh, boy. This is wild. I didn't believe it at first. I had to check a couple other sources just to check, but in the crowded field of conservative podcasters, the Daily Wire has become the most successful, with millions of listeners and downloads each month. Now, it is looking to bring in new financial backers, according to a report in Semaphore, which says it is even leaving the door open to a potential sale. So, again, this is a giant, massive network. They make a lot of money, and they have a lot of resources, and they have a lot of money that was invested in the Daily Wire. I mean, it's probably the most, or one of the most, at one point, popular conservative networks, with Ben Shapiro as one of the founders there. And of course, Candace Owens was a part of this group as well, until the Daily Wire fired her because of her criticism over Israel and her sympathy for the Palestinian children that have been killed in Gaza. And it seemed like, for real, ever since then, things have not been going well. There was another member of the Daily Wire, I think maybe more like a contributor, but her name is Brett. She left. She wasn't fired, but she left. Jeremy, who was also one of the co-founders, had like a breakdown on X about the Daily Wire. It almost feels like it's karma, like just coming full circle, ladies and gentlemen. So doesn't look good, doesn't sound good. So what is happening here? It says that co-founder Ben Shapiro met with several financial figures at the Milken Conference in LA this month. The company told Axios in December that it was seeking investors to further grow its business. The last time it raised capital, the Daily Wire was valued at more than $1 billion. Jesus Christ. See, this is what I was telling people before, that people have to realize that the left or progressive independent, commentators, like, there isn't a lot of money on that side. There's a lot of money on the right. Like, imagine that, $1 billion. Like, that's crazy. So why would they seek more investors? Or why would they be considering, like, why is he considering selling it? The company isn't commenting, but it follows a move in March by co-founder Jeremy Boring to step away from running the company. The Daily Wire has also been trimming expenses, but expanding in other areas. It is opening an office in DC as it looks to move beyond podcast and video to a broader digital news operation. Last year, Boring said the Daily Wire was on track to hit 200 million in annual revenue, telling Axios that the company made more than 20 million on its Jeremy Razor's business alone. There may not be any current plan to sell the Daily Wire, but some see Fox as a potential acquirer after it snapped up Red Seat Ventures, the content creator that has embraced conservative podcasters such as Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson in February. Fox is reportedly interested in expanding its audio business, with Semaphore reporting in December that the Daily Wire is among the companies that Fox has spoken with. So now you have Fox, big, huge conglomerate, whose ratings tend to be doing very well when you compare it to CNN and MSNBC, is interested in the Daily Wire. Now, the Daily Wire doesn't say that it's independent media, doesn't really pretend to be independent media. They have sponsorships. Like, they openly acknowledge that they they're open to investors and they take money, right? It's one of the reasons why they have so much money and they have been so successful, because when you have a lot of financial backing, it's easier for you to reach more people. You're talking about marketing, right? They probably have marketing out the wazoo. And marketing is one of the most effective ways that you can reach more people. A lot of us that are on the left of the independent media, we don't have that, right? So our marketing is us. we spread the word on social media. So it goes on to say here, at the time, Boring said that the conservative news outlet was not closed off to an offer, and said it's easy to imagine a strategic partnership with Fox or someone like Fox that could be mutually beneficial. If they were to partner with Fox, this is going to be really huge. The Daily Wire had 9 active podcasts during April, with 5.4 million unique listeners and 30 million downloads and streams, according to Podtrac data. The roster includes shows like The Ben Shapiro Show, Morning Wire, The Michael Knowles Show, The Matt Walsh Show, The Andrew Klavan Show, and The Jordan B. Peterson Podcast. This month, Shapiro announced he would be expanding his show from 60 to 90 minutes. So let me tell you what I think is happening, folks. Here's the thing. Though they won't admit it, Candace Owens' departure from the Daily Wire, I don't think that helped Daily Wire. I think that did hurt them, because the thing is, she has had at that time a massive following. Her following has increased since she was fired from the Daily Wire, which also means that some of the people that watch the Daily Wire may have agreed with Candace on the Israel issue. And when she was fired, they decided to be loyal to her and to follow her and her ventures. And then some of them decided to stay with the Daily Wire and continue to watch them. Again, what this kind of shows is that there does seem to be a somewhat of a split on the right when it comes to Israel and Gaza. Candace has grown enormously since she was fired from the Daily Wire. It's not like she created another YouTube show and she's struggling here. A lot of her videos are breaking millions. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but if you look at her channel, a lot of her videos are getting million views, 500,000 views, like, easily, whether she's talking about politics or not, right? And a lot of the content more recently is not as much focused on politics as it is focused on calling out things in the entertainment industry, right? So she did the whole series about Blake Lively, who I wasn't even really that familiar with. But she did the whole series about that. Apparently, she just interviewed Harvey Weinstein. It's almost as if the firing of Candace Owens actually helped her, right? So whether Ben Shapiro wants to admit that or not, that was a big loss for the Daily Wire. And I think there's something else that's happening here too. Ben Shapiro, he's been having these meltdowns He had a meltdown here when Donald Trump wanted to, I guess, put these types of tariffs on Israel. He had a meltdown about the Luigi Mangione situation. And if you look at the comments, it was obviously that something is happening there with that audience where a number of them are disagreeing with him when it comes to populist issues, and a number of them are disagreeing with him when it comes to Israel and Gaza. I want to show you just an example here where he had a breakdown. Check this out.
Yesterday, Israel announced zero tariffs on any American goods. The Trump administration hit them with a 17% tariff anyway, claiming that they had a 33% tariff rate on American goods, which clearly is not true. Why? Because it turns out that we buy more stuff from the Israelis than the Israelis buy from us. Shocker. They're a smaller country. We're a giant market. Not a giant shock, as it turns out. So this is pretty crazy. I have friends, for example, who import product to the United States and then sell them. Why? Because they can't get the product in the United States. So, for example, I have a friend who's in the jewelry business. And this friend in the jewelry business imports products that are not capable of being manufactured or found in the United States from abroad. So it's not like there's import substitution you can just buy from an American. That's not how it works. This, by the way, this company is an American company. The tariff that is now being applied to all of his imports is like 35, 40%. Those prices will get passed directly on to the consumers if consumption goes down. If investment goes down, because investors are freaked out because they're getting whipsawed like nobody's business. Again, I was talking with investors pretty much all day yesterday, given what was going on. And the number one thing that I was hearing from major investors is, I don't know what the hell is going on. That was the number one thing. Before and after. The amount of confusion, chaos in the markets, a feeling of complete dyspeptic ulcer-ridden kind of churn, that is very real, and that is not good for markets.
Okay, so that was Ben Shapiro's more recent meltdown against Donald Trump. Obviously, I guess at that point was announcing some type of tariffs on Israel. And I think what a lot of people started to see as Donald Trump became president this time is that for the crowd of MAGA that is America first and is serious about being America first, and they are criticizing either Donald Trump or our government in particular trying to make Israel a priority. Well, that's a problem for Ben Shapiro because Ben Shapiro is Israel first. And you'll notice it, like if you look at some of the comment section, like in his videos where people are pushing back. In fact, this one in particular, this is after the discussion about healthcare, after Luigi Mangione was arrested. The comment section was killing him on this video, like just seriously destroying him. And it was very obvious that there seemed to be a big disconnect between him and his viewers, that like when they said America first, they really meant America first. And they really meant like, yeah, we do support some of these populist, issues. And they're starting to see like, whoa, Ben, what are you doing? Why are you defending these greedy CEOs? Why are you defending the healthcare industry? A number of people have gone bankrupt. A number of people have lost their lives because they didn't have adequate insurance, no fault of their own, because you don't get to choose the health insurance company that your employer has. And this was a massive, massive L. Listen to this one.
People who are perfectly willing to keep people in misery for their own profit. Maybe there are those people. That is not the vast bulk of people in the United States or in positions of high power or in positions in high industry. That is not how it works. This is a strategy, a political strategy that was termed by the philosopher Alistair McIntyre emotivism. The idea that you, instead of making an argument about the policy the person is promoting, you actually just say that the person has bad motivations. That person is evil. That person is wrong. Right? That not just wrong, but like motivated by a sociopathic evil. So the only way that you kill somebody like Brian Thompson is by suggesting that he is motivated not by a desire to keep the company working and operative in a very difficult regulatory environment with a bizarre system of subsidies and administrative details and all of the rest of that. And you can disagree with his decisions, think they're wrong, but that's the actual. Instead, what you do is you say he's evil and he's just trying to maximize profit. Once you start saying the evil profiteers are trying to harm Americans, like that's their goal. Their goal is to harm, and I'm telling you, this is on both sides of the aisle. It is on the left predominantly, but there's a swath of people on the right who are also doing this routine.
Their goal is to maximize their profit, and they don't care who gets hurt in the process. I mean, that's the reality. They just don't, because if you cared who got hurt in the process, you wouldn't deny all these claims. And that was one of the things we mentioned about United Healthcare, is that they were notorious for denying claims. They had the highest percentage of claim denial when you compared them to other health insurance companies. I worked in the health insurance field after I graduated from undergrad, and I can tell you they were notorious for rejecting claims and not paying. Like they were bad. Cigna was bad, but they were the worst. And it was just like, with this particular subject, it was clear that Ben really did not meet the moment, because what he failed to understand is that, and I don't think he gets this because he's pretty wealthy, but what he failed to understand is that healthcare is not a left or a right issue, that there are people on the left and the right that have fallen into medical debt, that have had medical bankruptcy. There are people on the left and the right that have had their claims denied. Like, these insurance companies don't care what your political ideology is. And it was just like, he really did not meet the moment. You know, so there's some of the takes that he has had that I think may have worked for him more in the past are not really working the way that they used to. Like I said, his undying support for Israel, defending Israel at every turn. Obviously, he's Israel first. That doesn't seem to go over well with a lot of people that did support Donald Trump, that said, no, we are going to put Americans first. That didn't go over well with them. So it's like, I don't know if some of the people in the MAGA movement changed, or if Ben just did not evolve enough. I don't know. Let him go on a little bit more here. It's crazy.
Ugly. Now, I will say that there are elites who have lent credibility to this particular argument through their malfeasance. I think COVID had a lot to do with this. You had people like Anthony Fauci who were giving the platonic lies to the American public, lying for their own purposes in many cases, quashing their political opposition. But the generalized argument that is made too much in politics, and it does boil the pot, it leads to an increasing temperature that justifies violence, is this language that disagreements on policy are not because of a pragmatic inability to come to a conclusion, or starting from different first principles, or using logical deductions that end up with different conclusions. No, the actual reason that, for example, the healthcare system is a mess is because Brian Thompson is an evil person who is trying to kill grandma, right? Or the reason that the oil companies are attempting to pump more oil is not because there is high demand for carbon-based fossil fuels, because it's still the most effective form of energy production on the planet. It's because they want to destroy the earth and don't care about destroying the earth. Right? Or the reason the bank denied your loan is not because the bank looked at your loan, assessed the risk, and found that it wasn't worth the price. It's because the bank manager is actually Mr. Potter and is trying to deny your bank loan because he himself is evil.
So, yeah, this is where he misses the moment. There have been a number of times, I would say definitely post October 7th, where he definitely missed the moment. And the reality is that more and more people are looking at someone like Ben Shapiro, and we're just kind of like, dude, you're basically in place to obviously maintain the status quo, but also to provide excuse for the wealthy, for the rich, for their treatment of poor and working class people. The reality is the bank manager that he's talking about, the oil companies that he's talking about, the healthcare CEOs, they don't care about other people. They care about profit. It's always profit first. That's how you get there. And Ben doesn't want to admit that. Would not be surprised if maybe some of these companies that he's talking about, maybe he has some type of relationship with. You never know. Maybe they could be some type of sponsor. Don't know. But what I do know is we have come into a moment where more people are being vocal about their financial struggles, their healthcare struggles, both on the left and on the right. And Ben Shapiro has been missing these moments that apparently members of his audience really wanted to kind of shake him and wake him up about. So when you see now that there's a possibility that Ben Shapiro may be looking to sell the Daily Wire, and they are very successful, they make a lot of money, you got to pull back a bit and say something ain't right. Something's going on there. And I think that they would be wrong to say that they didn't take any type of a hit or anything after they fired Candace Owens. There was a certain subset of people that tuned in to watch her. This is the thing, too, I will tell you about networks that people need to wake up to, okay? When you have a network like the Daily Wire, and say there's 4 or 5 people, 4 or 5 hosts, right? What tends to happen is that people tend to gravitate towards one of the 2 of those people. So like for some people, their favorite may have been her. So then when you fire her because she calls out what's happening to the kids in Gaza, people kind of looking at you kind of suspect, because it's like, you say that you're pro-life, but you have a problem with her calling out the kids being killed in Gaza. And also there's the issue that she's not pro-Israel. So it just, and me and Candace don't agree on most things, I would say, but we do agree on the Israel-Gaza issue. And it just, to me, it seemed like a bad thing, a bad mistake for like Daily Wire to do. But after firing her, she has continued to grow very quickly on her own. So at the end of the day, she didn't really need them. Looks like they probably needed her. Stay tuned, folks. We'll find out if they do decide to sell it, if Fox does acquire it. But something ain't right. Let's go to the comments here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Mario says, same treatment he got on the Kanye video. Yes, it's a number ones, like where people are like, dude, what are you talking about? Miss Ritchie says, Ben Shapiro is literally all the bad things about the right wing, none of the good. Baby Ethernet said his voice is annoying to listen to. Decipher says, I have the answer. Crowder took Ben's college debate lane. Interesting. Thank you so much, Corey. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin. Dave Burt says, thanks, Eric and Sabs. You are welcome. Welcome back. All right. We are moving on to the next story. And before we get into the thick of it, we're going to start off with this project that many people have been begging me to discuss. And after Wednesday night's incident, now's the perfect time for me to talk about this. Something ain't right. Something is a little bit fishy. Wednesday night, 2 Israeli embassy staffers were killed in Washington, D.C. after they were leaving a Jewish museum. And the perpetrator has already been arrested, apparently waited around, basically turned himself in. They left him outside while he was handcuffed. Something about the events that unfolded Wednesday night do not seem right to me. It seems somewhat suspicious, especially considering the events that happened before that shooting, which we'll get into. So I want to start off with this first as we dive into that. There is a project called Project Esther. Are you familiar with this? You guys heard about this? A national strategy to combat anti-Semitism, right? So let's get into the thick of this. Key takeaways. America, anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, and anti-American pro-Palestinian movement is part of a global Hamas support network. Pay attention to this, guys. 2, supported by activists and funders dedicated to destroying capitalism and democracy, the HSN benefits from the support and training of America's overseas enemies. Everybody pay attention. 3, the National Task Force to Combat Anti-Semitism intends to enlist partners in a coordinated effort to combat the scourge of anti-Semitism in the United States. This project, folks, I want everyone to pay attention, because what they are saying It says, supported by activists and funders dedicated to the destruction of capitalism and democracy. It says HSN benefits from the support and training of America's overseas enemies and seeks to achieve its goal by taking advantage of our open society, corrupting our education system, leveraging the American media, co-opting the federal government, and relying on the American Jewish community's complacency. Project Esther. This project is happening as a way to supposedly combat anti-Semitism, but make no mistake, I've been reading about this for quite some time. The step here is to go further than Biden did. They actually say that, to go further than Biden did and to weed it out. So notice the language that is used. They mention the protesters. What Project Esther is trying to prove is that the people who participated in the pro-Palestinian protests are basically being funded by Hamas network. They've been funded by these groups overseas. Therefore, they can call you a terrorist, a domestic terrorist. Pay close attention. They mention here that they're corrupting our education system. That means they're going to go into the schools. One of the things they're going to want to do is they're going to try to change the curriculum. This is very important. They're going to try to change things. They may try to make it so that certain classes that don't cover history in the way that they want it covered, that those classes will be pulled from the schools. This also means that people will lose jobs. This project is the next step to silence and criminalize people who are critical of Israel. And they have a whole layout as to how they want to do this. I'm telling you about Project Esther as we get into this story, because what happened on Wednesday night, first and foremost, Sabby Sab podcast does not condemn violence. We make this very clear. But what happened Wednesday night, to me, the way the events unfolded and the connections that the alleged shooter has and the groups that he's allegedly connected to, it all seems to me as though this was scripted. It seems a little too real. And another thing that I want to mention, you got to question the timing of it. So let's get into what happened Wednesday night. So 2 Israeli embassy staffers were shot and killed in DC. We're going to get into who they are. But first and foremost, I want you to hear what the DC police chief had to say after the event.
Both victims succumbed to their injuries. The preliminary investigation indicates that both victims were exiting an event at the cap side of the museum. He approached a group of 4 people, produced a handgun, and opened fire, striking both of our decedents. After the shooting.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to say that. Did I say that, Eric? Oh, yeah. Apparently I said, okay, I misspoke. Sabby Sab's podcast does condemn violence. Sorry. Sorry, guys. Let's go on.
The suspect then entered the museum and was detained by event security. Once in handcuffs, the suspect identified where he discarded the weapon, and that weapon has been recovered, and he implied that he committed the offense. The suspect chanted, "Free, free Palestine," while in custody. The suspect has been tentatively identified as 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez of Chicago, Illinois. Our MPD case detectives are leading this investigation.
Okay. So his name is Elias Rodriguez. Before he was even named, I saw people on social media saying, oh, it's probably one of those radical, pro-Palestinian protesters. Some people were saying it's probably an illegal immigrant. He's not an illegal immigrant. He was born and raised in Chicago. We'll get into his background. So you notice that the DC chief there said that he said free, free Palestine, right? So let's go on a little bit more. Because even when you watch this on display, to me, it just feels scripted. Watch this. So this is Elias Rodriguez here.
No. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Watch this, right? So he waits until they put the handcuffs on him. And then, to me, it almost felt like this was scripted. First of all, a couple of things I noticed about this. Look at the way that he's dressed. Why is he wearing a suit? They said that at first he tried to enter the building. I guess he couldn't get in. And then he waited around. And then when people started to exit, he shot and killed 2 of them. Now, there were 4 people walking at that point in time, according to the report. He shot and killed 2 of them, which means those 2 in particular were targeted. We'll get into who they were in just a second. But to me, it seems a little too convenient, considering the timing. I also noticed something else. I have seen police beat pro-Palestinian protesters, peaceful ones. I've seen them push protesters on the ground. This guy just killed 2 people, allegedly. And look at the way they're handling him. Let's go on to the next part. These are just some of the things that we got to pay close attention to. So let's get into who he was. So Elias, go to the next part here. Rodriguez. So it says that he is an oral history researcher at History Makers, where he prepares detailed research outlines and biographies of accomplished leaders in the African American community. In the African American community. This is interesting, huh? Born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, he holds a BA degree in English from the University of Illinois, Chicago. Prior to joining History Makers in 2023, he worked as a content writer for commercial and non-commercial films in the technology space, both national and regionally based. He enjoys reading and writing fiction, live music, film, and exploring new places. He lives in Avondale neighborhood of Chicago. The African American community, huh? Let's go to a little bit more here. The other thing about Elias, apparently in 2017, he was a member of PSL, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, one of the local chapters. But according to PSL, he is no longer a member of that organization. Apparently, he was just a member in 2017. They put out a statement here. We reject any attempt to associate PSL with the DC shooting. Elias Rodriguez is not a member of the PSL. He had a brief association with one branch of the PSL that ended in 2017. We know of no contact with him in over 7 years. We have nothing to do with the shooting and do not support it. In the comments, PSL is really getting destroyed in the comments. So just FYI. But this was the other part to me that was suspicious. So he just happened to have been at one point associated with PSL. Why is that significant? PSL, along with Answer Coalition, they are the organizations that organizes these massive pro-Palestinian protests that you've seen. The first protest in DC after October 7th that had over 500,000 people, that was PSL and Answer Coalition. They are known for being able to turn out big numbers, right? They have buses that goes to different cities to pick people up to take them to protests in DC. So they have more resources. They have a good amount of funding, I would say, if they can do these things. Like, they're not like, just some grassroots organization that just has small dollar donations. They have good backing and good funding, right? Don't you think it's kind of strange that the person who did the shooting just happened to have been connected with PSL, the organization that was responsible for having those massive pro-Palestinian protests across the country? Don't you think that's just a little convenient? And what does this mean for PSL? Because I'm about to tell you guys right now, check it out. We're about to see a massive crackdown. A massive, massive crackdown. I'm talking about censorship like no other. I'm talking about forget about free speech. Who knows what they may do about protests? They may make a ruling that you can't have pro-Palestinian protest. Now, if this guy was a member of PSL, first of all, PSL does not advocate for people to go out and do what he did. They don't. But he was a member of PSL. Why would he do this? Because I'll tell you what I think about Elias. One or two things is happening here. I believe he was either an infiltrator, a plant. I believe that there may be some intelligence at work here. This is what people mean when they mention the false flag. I believe he may have been a plant. This guy, there are now pictures going around on social media of him with Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, where he was active in other grassroots organizations, apparently in Chicago, with Black organizers as well. I mean, when I look at people that were infiltrators, that infiltrated the Black Panthers, don't forget, they went to all these protests. They did all these things like they were right along with them. And then you find out years later that some of these people were infiltrators. So it almost feels like to me, this guy was a plant. Let's go on to more information here. Look at this picture. Now, somebody make this make sense to me. Silent Star says the shooter in the Washington attack, which killed 2 Israeli embassy staff, did not flee the scene. He carried out the act, asked someone to call the police, confessed, and waited calmly without resistance. Does this make sense to you guys? Does that make sense to any of you? That to me seems a little bit strange. Look how calm he is. Right? Don't forget, one of the ways that they were able to kill and get to Fred Hampton was because the FBI had an infiltrator in that Chicago chapter who told them where Fred Hampton would be. So this guy just sitting here like this. Hello, I'm here. Come arrest me. That don't seem odd to you guys? It was also interesting to me, like I said, there were 4 people apparently that departed at that time and he targeted 2. Right? Let's see who those 2 were. Yaron Lashinsky. Lashinsky. This is one of the tweets that he had. Listen to this, guys. Israel is the only place in the Middle East where Christians can thrive. Not perfect, but livable, speaking as a Christian myself. As for the rest of the Middle East, I would say it depends in what direction the Muslim world develops, more moderate or more fundamentalist. This is one of the victims, Yaron Lashinsky. So he was a Christian who was ethnically Jewish. We'll get into a little bit more about his background. Okay, that's one of them. Let's dive in here. What do we know about the 2 Israeli embassy staffers killed in the DC shooting? So let's get in. So this is Yarav, and this is his girlfriend, or was his girlfriend here. Now we want to get into the background of Yaron first. It says that Lashinsky was born in Nuremberg, Germany, was a Christian and a true lover of Israel who chose to dedicate his life to the state of Israel and the Zionist cause. The son of a Jewish father and a Christian evangelist mother, he left Germany and came to Israel with his brother when he was 16 years old. According to Ronan Chauvel, the head of the Argaman Institute for Conservative Studies in Jerusalem, where Lashinsky attended an advanced program. In his LinkedIn profile, he wrote that he had the privilege of calling both Jerusalem and Nuremberg his home. So this part right here is important. He was a man of faith. He took his Christian faith seriously. He was asking the big questions of life and saw himself as someone who wants to be a part of the story of the Jewish people. So he was a Christian Zionist. During his work the past 2 years as a research assistant at the Israeli embassy in DC, he was responsible for keeping the department up to date on important events in the Middle East and North Africa, conducting research on topics of interest to our diplomatic staff, liaison with other diplomatic missions, maintaining relationships with the local think tank community, and helping organize the delegation visits from various Israeli ministries. Now, check this part out. He served in the Israel Defense Forces for 3 years. So he was a member of the IDF, at least for 3 years. This is why I say these two people were targeted. And if you look at his social media profile, if you look at his account on Twitter, it's all like pro-Israel. He was also very, I don't know how to say the word, but very, I guess, adamant against the Houthis, Ansar Allah. He supported what Israel was doing. He supported the expansion of Israel. He supported the Palestinian people being removed from Gaza. That's who this was. Now, I find something very interesting that I have to say to you guys. I watched a couple of people in independent media cover this, and I watched corporate media cover it. And what it was sad to see is that some of the people who covered this in independent media did not mention to their viewers that he was a former member of the IDF. He volunteered. I think that's important. Let's get into his girlfriend. Sarah Lynn Milgram. Milgram worked in the embassy's Department of Public Diplomacy for almost 2 years, beginning in November 2023, according to her LinkedIn profile. That would have been right after October 7th. She described herself as a dynamic professional. She was an American citizen, according to the Associated Press. Before her time, listen to this, before her time at the embassy, she worked in Tel Aviv for Tech to Peace, which provides high-tech and entrepreneurial training alongside conflict dialogue to young Palestinians and Israelis. Tech to Peace said in a statement on Thursday that Milgram was a devoted and active volunteer in our community, and she was a deeply curious person. She brought people together with empathy and purpose, and her dedication to building a better future was evident in everything she did. Her voice and spirit will be profoundly missed. So these are the two people that were killed. Now, let's go on a little bit further, shall we? Israeli embassy employee killed in Washington had served in the Israeli military, openly supported Gaza genocide. One of the Israeli embassy employees, Yaron Lashinsky, had served in Israeli military and dismissed UN warnings about mass child deaths from starvation in Gaza as a blood libel. Days before his death, he endorsed Israel's Gideon Chariots operation, an official strategy to occupy and seize full control of Gaza through a ground invasion, forcibly displace its population to a southern enclave, and restrict humanitarian aid to the bare minimum. You can see here from Shovel Ronan, he said, beloved Yaron was a student of the Agaman Institute, a Christian who served in the IDF and dedicated his life to Israel and Zionism. It looks like this one was removed. That's interesting. Something happened with this post. I don't know what happened there. I don't even know what that one was. Let me bring that out real quick. Now, 1 second. Let me just double check that post because I have a lot more to say. Okay, yeah, that was the Okay, we'll get to the manifesto. So we're going to get to the manifesto here in just a second. We're not going to read the whole thing. We're just going to do like a summary of it. But I will say this. It was really interesting to me, the number of people who left out the fact that he was an IDF soldier. Again, I don't condone violence, but I found it interesting that today I felt like independent media was sounding a little too much like corporate media to me, that they were leaving key things out of this story. Now let's go to this alleged manifesto. Ken Klippenstein decided to publish this. Independent journalist Ken Klippenstein has published what he says is the alleged manifesto. The man accused of shooting 2 Israeli embassy staffers. Okay, so Ken said that he believed the document is authentic, citing that it is signed by Rodriguez and timestamped before law enforcement or the media had named him. He states his intent in publishing it is not to glorify violence, which he condemns, but to prevent information vacuums that could be filled with disinformation. Writing sunlight is the best disinfectant, especially when politics is involved. The manifesto, here's just a little bit of a rundown of what it said. It offers a long emotional justification for the attack as a political protest against Israel's war in Gaza. Rodriguez describes as a genocide enabled by U.S. complicity. He cites a death toll of 53,000 killed by traumatic force, 10,000 under rubble, and a population at risk of famine due to blockade, writing, "We who let this happen will never deserve the Palestinians' forgiveness. They've let us know too much." He frames his act not as random violence, but as armed demonstration, drawing parallels to historical cases of protest against impunity, including an attempt to throw Robert McNamara off of a ferry in protest of Vietnam War crimes. He references Aaron Bushnell, the U.S. airman who self-immolated in front of the Israeli embassy in February. So he mentioned that. In closing, Rodriguez reflects on the morality of action, expressing that the perpetrators of genocide may still be recognizably human and that humanity doesn't exempt one from accountability. He ends with a message to his family and signs off with here. And this is Ken Klippenstein on the left. And then here's a picture of Elias here, apparently at another protest, one against Amazon. Notice again, if you look at the sign, it says Answer Coalition, AnswerChicago.org. I told you, them and PSL are the ones that usually work together to organize those massive protests. So I have to say this. As I told you before, this just seems a little too convenient. It just seems like, to me, I would not be surprised if this guy was a plant. I would not be surprised if he was an infiltrator. And now what is happening is that, number one, this is a gift to Israel. If he really cared about the pro-Palestinian movement, why would he do this? Because you would have to know that this is basically going to help Israel. This is a gift to them. This is going to be very detrimental for the pro-Palestinian movement. Because now, and I've already seen it, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but Netanyahu was already saying that Free Palestine is comparable to Hitler. The US government, they've already gotten together, and they're ready to put the smack down. Democrats and Republicans are getting together in a bipartisan way to try to combat anti-Semitism. And if they are now saying that because you said words, that means an attack on Jewish people, what do you think is going to happen with censorship? This is exactly why when I covered the story about Hassan Piker being detained, the reason why I covered that story is not because it was Hassan Piker, but because of who he is someone that has been very vocal for the support of Palestine, but he's also someone that's been able to still get into corporate media spaces. He still goes on CNN. He goes on to, corporate media. He was on the Daily Show, right? So if they are willing to detain him, what makes you think they wouldn't come after you? If you look here, I want to tell you what happened before this event. This is why I say it's very suspicious. AIPAC Tracker said, it is worth noting that less than 24 hours ago, the Israeli military opened fire on a delegation of dozens of diplomats representing 31 countries who were on official business visiting the city of Jenin in the occupied West Bank. This happened right before the shootings happened. This happened. Foreign diplomats came under fire on official West Bank visit, drawing swift international condemnation. So this happened where the IDF fired upon European diplomats in the West Bank. That happened before this shooting happened in DC. Other things happened too. Let's go to part two, Corey. I'm connecting all the dots, and to me, the timing is mad suspicious because this also happened the same day before the shooting. Justice Department moves to drop police reform agreements from Louisville and Minneapolis. The consent decrees came after the killings of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. So I'm sorry, but I'm just putting all the dots together. Don't you think it's kind of strange that on the same day that the DOJ decides to lift police reform in Louisville and Minneapolis, the same day that European diplomats are fired upon in the West Bank by the IDF, the same day is the day that 2 Israeli embassy staffers are shot and killed in DC. Let me explain what I mean. There's a big crackdown coming. You see, they're lifting the police reforms because part of police reforms is body cams. Don't forget about the cop cities that they've been building over the past couple of years. They are getting ready to go full speed in. All of this for Israel, for a state that is killing children and women and has been doing so since after October 7th, 2023. They about to do a big smackdown, ladies and gentlemen. You see that poll that came out that said that Americans no longer really support Israel the way that they used to. Israel has been losing the narrative. Israel's trying to find a way to get that narrative back. The only way they're going to get that narrative back is by getting people to empathize with Israel. Now, how do you do that? Obviously, if there is death, that's one of the ways that you can say, well, we're going to pull people over to this side now. Because see, look, we told you there was a rise of anti-Semitism in the United States. This is why I said, think with your brains, people. Why would this kid do this and think this would be a plus for the pro-Palestinian movement? He would have to know, as if all of you would know, that this would make things worse for the pro-Palestinian movement. That's why it doesn't make sense to me. Who paid this kid? Where did he come from? I'm getting plant vibes. People have no idea what is about to come. This part right here. Thank you, Noctis, for this. They are going to blow this way up. I promise. Be prepared to see all this all over the news, media, celebrities. The accounts here you expect, of course, will pound this home nonstop. Mark my words, this entire week will be filled with every talking head, every pundit, every account and commentator to pull us into war with Iran and to tackle hate speech on X and other platforms. Everyone pay attention. Again, don't you think it's just a little convenient? So listen to what Pam Bondi says here.
Mayor, thank you. Chief, thank you. Ambassador, our hearts go out to you and your staff. I spoke to the President of the United States multiple times tonight on behalf of the President. His prayers are with all of us, all of the Jewish community, everyone in Washington, D.C., state, local, and federal agencies, and our great U.S. Attorney, Jeanine Pirro, who will be prosecuting this case. We'll be doing everything in our power to keep all citizens safe. especially tonight, our Jewish community. Our prayers go out. We have the FBI. All of our federal agencies will work hand in hand with you, Chief, as we have done, and you, Mayor, to do everything we can to keep our citizens safe. We will follow the facts. We will follow the law. And this defendant, if charged, will be prosecuted to the fullest extent. Mayor.
Okay. They are about to try to, I believe, unleash massive protections. Don't be surprised if at some point, well, it's Thursday now, but who knows what could happen tomorrow. Don't be surprised if at some point they're rushing through urgent legislation. And I'm going to explain to you, like, we'll talk a little bit more about it on call in, because there's just some things I don't even want to get into, like, on here, to be honest with you. But when I say something ain't right, it's not right. I'm going to try to tell you guys, this is not going to make things better. Wait till you hear what this guy said. See, I'm telling you, they're going all in now. Shout out to Blakely for capturing this.
Responding was kind enough to hand me the phone. On the other line was the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who told me that his administration is going to do everything it can possibly do to fight and end anti-Semitism and the hatred that's being directed, the demonization and delegitimization of the state of Israel. Together with President Trump, our Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, will stand.
Excuse me, what? Did you guys see that? Did you see how we tried to slide that in there? Other than saying what is a pretty normal standard thing to say when something like this happens. Hey, condolences to your family. We condemn this attack. We're going to do everything we can to fight hate and fight anti-Semitism and find out the reason for this, because it just happened and they haven't even investigated it. He immediately pivots to, oh, President Trump said his administration will do everything we can to do to fight hate and anti-Semitism. Okay. And the delegitimization and demonization of the state of Israel. Excuse me?
Did everybody hear that? See, he said it very quickly, but the thing is, he slipped in the state of Israel. So they may try to make it now that if you criticize the state of Israel, they may try to say that's a crime. Like, get ready for it, folks. I'm telling everybody right now, get ready for it. This is why I say this all seems to be a little bit too convenient to me. Because the American people, for the most part, most of us, we know what's going on in Gaza. We know what they're doing to the people. A lot of us know about the history more so now, especially after October 7th. More people chose to educate themselves about what was going on. So now it's almost like we got to find another way to shut them up and to stop them from protesting. We got to find another way to silence them. And don't get it twisted, fam. Some of our Western allies are not too keen with this either. Canada, France, and the UK have announced that they're going to put sanctions on Israel because of what they're doing in Gaza. That was just announced. Israel has lost the world stage. They have lost a lot of support. So now you see everything's coming into work. I feel like this would be a last ditch effort. What happened last night, I feel like that will be a last ditch effort. Again, I do not condone violence, but the timing of this is suspect as hell. I just want everyone to wake up to that, the timing of it all. So I'm glad that Blakely caught that part, because I didn't see that last night. You can already see it happening now. Look at what they're doing. Make no mistake. If you screamed free Palestine, you helped pull the trigger. Everybody see this? It's already starting, folks. It's already starting. The U.S. is about to become, and I tell you, if you're one of the people and you've been waiting to leave the U.S., now might be your time. It's all starting to happen. So you see what they're doing? It's been all over social media, and not just social media, also on CNN, because Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL went right on to CNN and points his fingers at Hassan Piker for the reason why this happened. Now does everybody see the dots I've been trying to connect here? This is why it was put all the pieces together. Wasn't Hassan Piker just detained like a week ago? Then you have the lifting of the police reform. Body cams are a part of police reform. So if they don't have on body cameras, guess what? Your word against theirs. Put it all together. And then you have the shooting Wednesday night. Huh? Listen to this. Watch him blame Hassan Piker.
But all of us need to call it out. I'm thinking about the New York Times doing a gauzy profile a few weeks ago of this gamer, Hassan Piker, who regularly employs awful genocidal rhetoric against Jewish people in the Jewish state. Like, extremists should not be empowered. People who spout prejudice should not be platformed. This is a moment when we need to look ourselves in the mirror and say, we've got to stop this because the consequences are deadly.
Jonathan Greenblatt has spouted prejudice multiple times, right? How can you say that? It's just crazy to me. It's like they've lost the brainwashing game. They're really trying to convince people that the majority of casualties have happened to Israelis. That's not what happened after October 7th. The majority of casualties have been the Palestinian people since October 7th, and even going back before. The reality is this, folks. Like, you've got to be living in, are we in the Matrix? You have to be living in another world if you really can sit here and believe this mess. The numbers don't lie. You can look at the data and see they are slaughtering Palestinians. They're literally, you've had a number of Israeli ministers that have been on corporate media using genocidal rhetoric against the Palestinian people. No word from the ADL about it. Jonathan Greenblatt has called them animals and all this kind of stuff. But now we're supposed to believe that the real threat is Hassan Piker. Grasping at straws. This is why I question what happened. And I want other people to question too, because this is very scary, very scary. So here's what people need to get prepared for, okay? I really do feel like this was a last-ditch effort. We've known about the Hannibal Directive. I would not be surprised if intelligence was behind this. They have been known before to kill their own people. That's called the Hannibal Directive. I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if Elias was an infiltrator, was a plant. All these organizations have one, and sometimes more than one. I would not be surprised. The timing of all of this, to me, is suspect as hell. Because now what I think is going to happen, they're going to rush through pieces of legislation. They're going to make it so that you can't have pro-Palestinian protests because they're going to say that it's hate speech. Watch. By the way, you don't see them do this towards any of the groups that have been doing like hate speech and hate crimes against people. You don't see them try to ban the KKK. You don't see them try to ban neo-Nazis. No, it's these college students that want a genocide to stop. That's what they're trying to shut down. I wish America wake up. I wish America, everybody wake up and see what's going on. When we get to the South Africa story, you'll also see a connection there as well. Protest, free speech. Don't be surprised if they start removing people from X. Facebook has been notorious for removing people. Don't be surprised if they remove people from X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc. I would even don't be surprised with Rumble either. Because what they're going to, and by the way, Chuck Schumer would get on board with it too. They're going to have bipartisan support. But they couldn't get bipartisan support to get the police stop killing unarmed Black people. And what I'm really, really concerned about is the unfortunate part about this is you do have people that have been, allies, and you have people that have had solidarity with the Palestinian people. You have people like who are Jewish, like Katie Halper, like Max Blumenthal, like Aaron Mate, like a lot of the protesters that were on the campuses were Jewish students. You have that solidarity. And what I'm really, 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 really afraid of is that once they ramp up the censorship, I think they'll probably ramp up surveillance. I'm really afraid that it's going to make people feel as though they don't want to interact with said group, because they're afraid they're going to have to walk on eggshells because they may be accused of being anti-Semitic. What are we doing? Where is this country going? None of this is America first. This is Israel first. And if you can't criticize the state of Israel, we're headed for scary times. Let's go to some of the comments here in the chat. I'm very, very, very disappointed, and I'll mention it more on Call-In tonight. I'm very disappointed at the people who covered the story today and totally left out that he was an IDF soldier. Let's go on. Thank you, Mark. Forgot to say I signed up for 11 demands. Awesome, Mark. Mark in the house. Thank you, Joseph. I think a real false flag would involve more people not directly related to the state in question. It's an interesting point, Joseph. Thank you, Louise. Yes, it all seems like a horrible false flag. Elle says Project Esther is also being rolled out in public schools. Check out school board candidates. Thank you, JJ4. Heard there's a coup in the Ivory Coast. It's crazy. Thanks, Wasim. Very sus regarding E. Rodriguez, who happens to be in the area. The embassy worker who got taken typed on X threatening Malik al-Houthi, Ansar Allah leader. Here you go. And thank you for this one. Remember the Nye shooting where the guy was Muslim and the pro-Zio reporter happened to find an open Quran when she entered his house while it was in the crime scene? That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. None of those things worked. And I feel like this might be the final. Thank you, Wasim, for this one. Not if you're a Palestinian Christian. Israel today destroyed a Bethlehem playground in a Christian neighborhood. It's crazy. Thank you, 100 blokes. So this is recent, Sabby. I can discern the reason for that hit. Thank you, series. Just like how the Trump shooting was staged, right? Nice job making just the boogeyman. Bet no one finds story of Jews killing Palestinian protesters. And if he was in the IDF, why does it matter? It does matter. That actually does matter. I don't remember saying that Trump shooting was staged. You might have heard that on another show, but I didn't say that. Thank you, baby Ethernet. Him chanting free Palestine seems so odd to me. Right. It felt like a script. Thank you, Jay. A neighbor of Elias said he had a photo of a 6-year-old Palestinian boy killed by his landlord in one of the windows of his apartment. Don't know if this was a trigger, but none of this adds up. No, it don't. Thank you to Jewel in the Machine. All my likes and comments were disappearing off X today related to this topic, diplomats and South Africa. Interesting. There you go. Thank you, baby Ethernet. People weren't this upset about Dylan Roof. No, they weren't. No, wrong color, wrong complexion, right? Thank you, Wasim. But is cool for Zio saying unalive to Arabs in New York and assaulting a Jewish woman. Cool for 6-year-old Polly being unalive. And don't forget also the three students in Burlington, Vermont that were shot. Don't forget about that. Where was all that outrage? Where was it? Thank you, Lewis. Believe them, but never trust coincidences. Thanks, Wasim. 3 Poly University students shot, 1 paralyzed. Jewish lady trying to drown 3 Palestinian kids in a swimming pool in Texas. Florida, when a Zionist when he shot 2 Zionist tourists for thinking they were Palestinian. Yeah, all those things. Where was the outrage? Thanks, Over the Top. No one said squat about Charlie Hebdo cartoon. Thank you, New York Varsity. Rodriguez was known for having a sign that said justice for Wadia, a 6-year-old Palestinian American boy who was fatally stabbed by his landlord in Illinois. Thanks, Maxwell, for the sticker. And thank you, Marvin. Israel first, your rights last. Thanks, Sabby. Yeah, all of this is just, I don't know, man. I don't know. Thank you for the Rumble Rant, Wild Rose. Sabby knows what's up. It just seems very, very strange to me. And, you know, I say question every damn thing, okay? Question everything. And we're moving on to the next story. Again, we will do call in later tonight, ladies and gentlemen. If you just joined, don't forget to smash that like button. Thank you. Since it is Thursday, we are bringing back the craziest stories of this week. And I don't know if you heard about this story, but this story is wild, okay? Apparently, there was a prison break in New Orleans where a couple of inmates escaped from prison, but apparently one of them has escaped from prison multiple times. Now we're receiving new information as to how they were able to escape in the first place, that they did have help on the inside. Let's go ahead and bring in this story here. Worker at New Orleans jail arrested in connection with the inmate escape. This is crazy.
Officials say the breakout at a New Orleans jail was an inside job, arresting jail maintenance worker Sterling Williams. They say he turned off the water to this cell, enabling 10 inmates to escape through the wall. According to the arrest affidavit, Williams told investigators one of the fugitives told him to turn off the water, threatening to shank him if he didn't comply. An inmate also tried to take Williams's phone, according to the document.
He intended to assist these individuals to leave that facility.
The sheriff's office says a total of 3 jail employees are on leave without pay. The police chief today with this message for anyone who aids the escapees.
If they participate willfully and knowingly, they are going to be charged with serious felonies.
6 fugitives are still on the run, including a convicted killer. Police say 4 have been recaptured and arrested, all in New Orleans.
So this, just so people know, there are 6 that are still on the run, right? So they've been able to capture 4, but 6 are still on the run. This means 10 people. You would think people would have seen 10 people just taken off out of the prison, like running and the other thing is, from what I remember, okay, because I watched a lot of movies about like people going to jail and stuff. And from what I remember, isn't there like a security, like, aren't there officers that are like at the gate? Aren't there supposed to be officers that are right at the gate so if someone did try to escape, like there's officers there? Like, it's just, woo.
Police say 4 have been recaptured and arrested, all in New Orleans. The latest on Monday night, 21-year-old Gary Price. The sheriff who oversees the jail has been under fire for the response. Today, she apologized.
I take full accountability for this failure.
According to the jail's timeline, guards didn't notice the inmates were missing for more than 7 hours after their escape.
How is that even possible, you guys? There's cameras everywhere, all around the facility. It's really strange. And the guard, the guy who said he turned the water off, who helped them get out because his life was threatened, doesn't he have a gun? Like, I'm so confused. So it's like, you a knife versus you have a gun. So I was just kind of, I don't know, I was kind of confused there.
The public wasn't notified for more than 10 hours.
Look, if this jailbreak happened at 1, the public should have known at 1:05. The public is your best friend.
New Orleans District Attorney Jason Williams prosecuted the convicted killer, now on the loose.
So nobody noticed that while 7 hours went by, no one noticed that 10 guys were missing? Like, what? Sorry, Danny, you're right. The janitor, sorry, you're right. Good point. The janitor's not going to have a gun. But the reality is, like, you would think they would have noticed that 10 people were missing as 7 hours goes by.
He says the sheriff's response puts the public at risk.
Every single day that these men are at large, the public is in danger.
Ryan, what is the latest on the manhunt at this hour?
Well, Lester, the sheriff says they have more than 200 law enforcement personnel actively searching. The New Orleans police chief says they believe most of those fugitives are within city limits, and they are stressing the public is a crucial partner in this investigation, urging anyone who knows anything to contact law enforcement.
Yeah, and most people are probably not going to, because I'll tell you right now, for especially those of us in the Black community, I don't know nothing about nothing. I didn't see nothing. I don't know nothing about nothing. But there's more to this story that makes it even crazier. So wait till you hear this part here. Let's go ahead and start here. It appears that there were 2 women that have been helping them as well. Let's get into this. Oh my God.
And now to new developments this afternoon in that ongoing manhunt for the remaining inmates who escaped last week from the Orleans Parish Jail. State police just announcing the arrests of 2 women accused of aiding those escapees. 32-year-old Courtney Harris of New Orleans and 38-year-old Corvante Baptiste of Slidell are charged with accessory after the fact. Investigators say the pair helped some of the fugitives after their escape. As reporter Ryan Chandler shows us, this news comes just hours after the arrest of a 5th escaped inmate.
Overnight, authorities capturing a 5th fugitive, 19-year-old Corey Boyd, facing second-degree murder and aggravated battery charges. Boyd, the youngest of the 10 inmates who broke out of this New Orleans jail, an operation officials are calling an inside job. On Tuesday, investigators arresting jail maintenance worker Sterling Williams, who they say helped the inmates escape. According to the arrest affidavit, Williams told investigators one of the inmates threatened to shank him and directed him to turn off the water in a cell. They say Williams complied, and 10 men were able to crawl out of this hole behind a toilet and run free.
Look at the hole. Like, guys, wait. Look at the hole. So here's the toilet on the right. And he said they were able to crawl out of this hole. God damn. Because I'm looking at the hole and I'm like, I don't know if everybody can crawl out of that hole. I really don't know. But they got out that way.
The toilet and run free. Williams is now facing 10 counts of principal to simple escape and 1 count of malfeasance in office.
This investigation is still an ongoing investigation, and so there could be more arrests that will follow.
Law enforcement's also sending a message to those who may be helping the men hide.
You can either choose prison, because we are going to catch you and charge you, or you can cooperate.
Now, with half of the escapees recaptured and all expected in custody at a maximum security prison in Angola, Louisiana, an independent investigation is underway.
So at this point, they had captured the fifth one. And yeah.
The sheriff who oversees the jail accepting some blame.
There were procedural failures and missed notifications. But there were also intentional wrongdoings.
Among the 5 escapees still at large, a convicted murderer and a man who broke out of a different Louisiana jail in 2019.
So Anton Massey, this is the crazy part. Anton Massey, according to them, they said that he broke out of another Louisiana jail before. So it's almost like people would have kind of been more on guard the way that he was able to get out before. So they're probably like, hey, he may try to do this again. I don't know. But this guy went to a different prison and was still able to figure out how to get out of that one, just like he got out of the other one. Wild.
In that case, he was found within hours just outside of Dallas. While police have captured the other inmates in New Orleans, 6 days into the manhunt, officials say it's possible some of those still on the run may have fled to other cities or states.
We have one mission only, and that is to recapture these inmates, these escapees.
And coming up next hour on News 15 Live.
That's just, it's crazy, you guys. That's just wild. I'm still trying to figure out how in the hell did they get out of that hole? And you'll see a little bit more here about Anton Massey. Like I said, this guy has escaped multiple times.
AP Antoine Massey, who was accused in court documents of threatening to stab Williams prior to the jailbreak if Williams didn't cut off water to the toilet that was yanked out to provide an escape route for 10 inmates.
There isn't an ounce of this man's history that doesn't escape.
Dennis says Massey, who's wanted for rape and kidnapping in St. Tammany, as well as domestic abuse and theft in Orleans Parish, had prior escapes dating back to 2007 and was no longer a candidate for one of the hundreds of electronic monitors placed on Orleans defendants.
He had no intention of wearing an ankle monitor. 2 hours. And he cut it off. And we had him in jail pretty quickly. We went and got him.
Massey was one of 10 inmates seen jumping off of a back prison loading dock Friday morning, caught on a camera that was not being monitored in real time.
For that footage that we've all now seen, where you have the 10 inmates running outside the facility, is there a door sensor there that would alert the command center that that door is now open? Some kind of alarm that goes off?
No, that is not an exit door.
As New Orleans City Council members investigate vulnerabilities in the prison security system, Matt Dennis is helping police in trying to locate escapees like Massey.
These escapes happened. It was NOPD and state police and U.S. Marshals went instantly into our offender management system and identified the individuals in there that had previously worn ankle monitors.
So this is a wild story, you guys, but all I have to say is holy smokes. And what's sad about it, like the issue with the janitor that you guys were talking about, I saw in the chat, it's crazy because it's like he got arrested. He may go to jail, but his life was threatened. I don't. And how did the prisoners, how did they get that close to the janitor and there was no security guard around? Questions that need to be answered. But something ain't right. Something just ain't right. Let's go to some of the comments here in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. I know I'm still trying to figure out how did they get through that hole? Oh my God. Thank you, Wandy. Palestinians are Semitic. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Thank you, The Traveler. What's up? The Annabelle doll from The Conjuring is on tour. NOLA being one of the places, and a plantation was burned down along with the escape. Oh my God. I don't know what to say. Skylar said, who? Escapees? We got a jail in this state? Oh, I had no idea. My response, LOL. Huey says, I used to live in New Orleans. The public ain't saying squats. Baby Ethernet said, these prisons are so illegitimate and poorly staffed. Thank you, Shane. How tragic, the escape. Enter the AI robots, drones to bolster the penal industrial complex. No one escapes ever again. Ashura says, Sabby, they had Ant-Man equipment is why they went through the gaps. Thank you, Lewis. Must have done a lot of yoga to get past that hole. And thank you, Where's the Love? Those big dudes did not escape through that hole. Their heads can't fit. Nah, they don't want to report security lapses. There you go. There you go. Alrighty. We are moving on to the next story. Hey. Based. All right, guys, smash the like if you haven't done so. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. And we're moving on to the next story here. Holy smokes, get popcorn for this one. Christ. Okie dokie. Donald Trump had a meeting with Cyril Ramaposa, the president of South Africa, and the number of lies that were told during this meeting, and the fact that Cyril, in my opinion, I feel like he was too nice to Donald Trump. The giggles and the laughs and all that, that was not the time for that. And I feel like he should have pushed back on Donald Trump harsher. There were a number of lies, like I said, that were told. And I felt like he was just trying to be buddy or chummy, I guess, with Donald Trump. Now, the reason why I believe these lies are told, the reason why I believe they're coming after South Africa, number one, Elon Musk was there in that room as well. That's part of it. But the real other part of it is because this is payback from Israel for South Africa taking Israel to the ICJ. That's what this is really about, right? So let's get into the first clip here. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. This is where they're talking about the farmers. And just listen to this conversation, folks.
In cases, those policies do not go along with government policy. Our government policy is completely against what he was saying, even in the parliament. And they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can
take land. And then when they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
No, there is
nothing happens to them.
There is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately, through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And we have now been utilized.
The farmers are not black.
I don't say that.
So let me pause here. So does everybody see what he's doing? So that is true. The numbers show the majority of people that are killed in South Africa are black. They're not the white South Africans, right? So he tells this to Trump and Trump goes, well, the farmers are not black. The farmers are white, right? So screw all the black people that get killed. Let's just focus on the white people that have been killed. Right. So you can't say that there's a genocide of white people in South Africa when the majority of people being killed in South Africa are black. It just, and again, I feel like Cyril, and you're going to see some of the comments from other people from South Africa, how they felt about the way Cyril handled the situation. I felt like he was a little too nice with Donald Trump, or maybe too civil.
Good or bad, but the farmers are not black. And the people that are being killed in large numbers, and you saw all those grave sites, and those are people that loved ones going, I guess on a Sunday morning, they told me, to pay respect to their loved ones that were killed. Their heads chopped off, they died violently. And, you know, I mean, we're here to talk about it, and I didn't know we'd get involved here, but I will say this, that if the news wasn't fake like NBC, which is fake news, totally one of the worst, ABC, NBC, CBS, horrible. But if they weren't fake news like this jerk that we have here, if we had real reporters, they'd be covering it. But the fake news in this country doesn't talk about that. They don't want to talk about it, but now they have to talk about it. But they won't. This won't even be a subject. They'll have him talking about why did a country give a free, think of this. Why did a country give an airplane to the United States Air Force? Okay, the United States, not to me, to the United States Air Force, so they could help us out because we need an Air Force One until that's Air Force One, it's being built, 2 of them being built. But Boeing's a little bit late, unfortunately. So why did they give us a plane to the United States Air Force? That's what that idiot talks about after viewing a thing where thousands of people are dead.
I'm sorry, I don't have a plane to give you.
I wish I did. I take it. I would take it. If your country offered the United States Air Force a plane, I would take it.
See, this is exactly why, and when you see some of the criticism from other South Africans, this is why some of them have said that Cyril is more of a puppet, that he caves, and that Malema is the one that should have been president. This is exactly why you're going to see some of those remarks from them, because you sit up there and you say, he tells multiple lies in your face, and you sit up there and you say, I wish I had a plane to give you. Man, please. Are we serious? It gets even crazier. Like, I can't even believe this happened. Like, honestly, when I was looking at this. So then he starts to show this video, right, of Malema and EFF. And I guess to prove a point, like watch this.
Turn the lights down, and just put this on. It's right behind you.
Turn the lights down.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We are going to occupy land. South Africa occupy land. That's who we are. Whatever we want to do, we can withdraw my membership from this useless parliament. Yes, honorable member. Must never be scared to kill a revolution. Demand that at some point there must be killing because the killing is part of a revolutionary act.
So this is Julius Malema, right? If we were to compare them to people in the US, it almost seems like Cyril, kind of more aligned with like, I don't know, like a Bernie kind of type, maybe not even that far, but kind of like a Bernie like type. And Julius Malema would be more like Shama Sawant, right? So what he's showing here, and I'm not going to play the entire thing, but what he's showing here is Malema, and I believe this is EFF, the group EFF, where they're singing this chant and this song about the Boer. What people have to remember again is like we're really coming after people who had their land stolen from them and basically telling them that you can't have any like land or anything. Apartheid South Africa is crazy. And think about everything that Nelson Mandela fought for. Think about all of these things. Now, there are people, I've seen some of the remarks, some South Africans disagree with that song. They don't think they should sing the song anymore. But here's the things that Trump did not play, right? So fighter Rock Gotti, I believe must also be South African, said why Ramaphosa didn't request to play this clip. See, these are the things, again, they're not showing you.
Hey, you fucking hell.
You see this?
Kom nou, wil die petrol gooi man, klim in. Bring sommer hy slang hoor. Kom, pak uit. Weg. Nee, nou vroeg wala man.
So here's a black South African being put in what looks like, I don't know if that was like a dresser drawer turned into like a coffin. This is what's seriously happening, folks, in South Africa. Now, obviously, Trump's not going to play this video. And I'm pretty sure that video that he played was probably given to him by Elon Musk. Elon don't want you to see this, though. See, this is the kind of stuff. This is why I said before, they think they slick, right? So that same account, fighter Rakati, she said they were killed by white males, chopped into pieces, then given to pigs. As we speak, the case is before our courts in South Africa. She's referring to the picture of these women here. You see what I'm saying? And they really trying to convince the American people, that the genocide is happening against the white South Africans, the Afrikaners. Like you can't make this up, right? So when reporters ask Donald Trump, they're asking him, what will it take for him to be convinced there is no white genocide in South Africa? Listen to this.
What will it take for you to be convinced that there's no white genocide in South Africa?
Well, I can answer that for the president. It's for him. No, seriously. I'd rather have him answer. Yeah, I'd rather answer that. It will be.
Our president will respond to you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. President.
It will take President Trump listening to the voices of South Africans, some of whom are his good friends, like those who are here. When we have talks between us around a quiet table, it will take President Trump to listen to them. I'm not going to be repeating what I've been saying. I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. He would not be with me. So it'll take him, President Trump, listening to their stories, to their perspective.
And all of this is going to be debunked, by the way, what Donald Trump is saying, because, people is so ridiculous. But again, the way that Cyril responded is like, it's going to take him listening to basically what he was trying to say is it's going to take him listening to the white, the Afrikaners for him to believe it. Isn't that crazy? I even still feel like with this, he was just way too freaking polite, sitting there right there with Donald Trump when this man is lying right to your face and you're pretending as if you don't know your own country. That's the thing that pissed me off. And this is why you'll see more people push back like against this. We'll play the rest of this.
That is the answer to your question.
But Mr. President, I must say that we have, wait. We have thousands of stories talking about it. Sure. And we have documentaries, we have news stories. And that, is Natalie here, somebody here to turn that? I could show you a couple of things. And it has to be responded to.
Yeah, sure.
Let me see the articles, please, if you would. And turn the lights down. Turn the lights down.
Yeah, that's when they go to turn the lights down. And look at the look on Cyril's face. It's just like, again, I don't know why people, when they come visit the United States and they have these conversations with Donald Trump, I don't know why they sit up there and let Donald Trump punk them like this. So then you have a South African billionaire businessman. His name is Johan Peter Rupert. Watch what he says to Donald Trump. He's going to explain to him that there is no white genocide in South Africa.
Mr. President, if you had to wind all of those tapes properly, you will see I'm the biggest target of that rabble-rouser. Number one for over 10 years, Mr. Malema. In fact, the first time I met him, he was in the youth league with that gentleman. And look how he's changed.
Right.
We have too many deaths, but it's across the board. It's not only white farmers, it's across the board. And we need technological help. We need Starlink at every little police station. We need drones. I actually got drones donated for the peace parks to stop elephant and rhino poaching. And his predecessor stopped the importation because he said the United States would spy on us. I mean, US basics, the ridicule. So if you can help us. Remember, sir, you and I lived in New York in the 70s. We never thought New York would be what it became. 2 commissioners, a tough mayor. We need your help to stop this awful killing.
So do you see what's happening here, right? So what he basically said, and apparently he does have a relationship with Donald Trump going back to the 70s, apparently. But what he basically said is that, yeah, there is a lot of killing. We do have a lot of crime, but it's happening across the board. It's not just happening to white South Africans. It's not just happening to black South Africans, but the numbers show that the majority of the killings are black South Africans. Now, when we look at the farms, there is one thing that I do have to point out. What people have to understand is that the farmers, these people are isolated from the city. So the farms are out in the rural part of the country, isolated, and it makes it easier for attacks to happen to the farmers because they're isolated. You know, sometimes it could be a robbery, like that type of thing, right? Doesn't excuse it. But this idea, like this is ridiculous. And honestly, like Cyril, the way he was sitting there, I'm just saying to myself, I know damn well you're not really trying to, you're just not going to sit back and just take this BS. Can we go to the next part? Corey, thank you. You're just not going to sit back and take this BS because the reality is this. Let me show you something. Let me show you why some people say that Julius Malema is the one that should be president. Julius Malema, who you saw chanting in that video, this is what he posted. We provide meals to over 350 people every day at 3 p.m. Your support means a lot to us. We only accept donations in kind. You can find the contact number and address on the poster. So I was like, hold up. Malema's doing mutual aid? You know I'm down for that. So he's out there feeding people. And you can see the video here. So do you see? Malema, it seemed like he kind of got more of that revolutionary like spirit. And Cyril, I think, just want to just get along with the West. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. But this is really good that he's doing things like this. Remember what I told you before? A lot of times these leaders that are trying to help the people, right? So he's not the president of South Africa, but people are saying that he should be the one because he's more vocal. He doesn't put up with this BS. Simon Ateba, journalist, he's African journalist. He broke something down. He said, what happened at the White House today, South Africans may reject their president and elect Julius Malema. Ramaposa was laughing as he was being told lies to his face. Trump elevated Malema with the video blasting him. Even the U.S. State Department has not determined that there is an ongoing genocide in South Africa. The U.S. is a serious country, and it doesn't just claim genocide. It proves it, makes a legal determination, and informs Congress. None of that has happened. Follow Simon Ateba, you get a chance. So this is Julius Malema. And what you're going to see is more people after watching, President Ramaphosa's performance there are not too happy with dude. And what's really interesting, and I'm going to point out what this is really all about. I told you before, this is a way of Israel to get back at South Africa because Israel's the one that brought South Africa on the world stage at the ICJ. And then two, there's something else connected to this. All this focus on this lie about a genocide in South Africa, that is to distract you from the actual genocide happening in Gaza. This is so embarrassing. It's embarrassing as a country to sit here and see the president sit up there and say, oh, this white farmer genocide. And we all know damn well that the majority of killing that is happening, in particular right now, are places like Sudan, the Congo, and Gaza. We all know there's a genocide happening in Gaza. And it just makes other countries look at us and just freaking laugh and say, those damn Americans, people can be so easily propagandized in this particular country. And it's obvious. And I can't believe people falling for it. The same people who want to sit up there won't even mention that there's a genocide in Gaza because they're bought and paid off by the Israeli lobby. They really got people out here believing who won't question things, won't look something up on their own. They really got people out here believing there's a genocide against white people in South Africa. I can't make this up. Americans, again, easily propagandized. They get you to fall in love with the leader and you believe anything that they say. I've seen it on both sides. Democrats too. Democrats do it too. Here's some of the criticism coming in. Professor Mumoli, weak, spineless, overwhelmed, struggling. I've seen enough. This entire trip was a geopolitical mistake. Make no mistake about it. President Cyril Ramaphosa and South Africa were humiliated, he says. Humiliated today. Look at him. Why are you smiling? Why are you smiling? You let Donald Trump sit up here and the way he talked about your people like this, and you sitting up there smiling like a puppet. What's next? Are you going to say, can I shine your shoes for you? I was wondering if he was going to ask him that. After he said, I wish I had a jet I could give you. Can I shine your shoes? This is the same guy who took Israel to the ICJ. What is happening here? A hot mess. Here's another one. Professor Moya. The unstoppable MK party has submitted a motion of no confidence against Ramaphosa, who is capitalism's favorite puppet, and Gondongwana, who wants to increase fuel levy by 4%. Effectively, the MKP, which represents the majority, wants Ramaphosa impeached. Fam! And you know what? We got to hear the chant. Let's go with it. We gotta drop the beat. Dance with me. not going to lie, that song is kind of cool. The little song here they're singing, I like it. But do you see that, you guys? You see that? How they sat up there and they basically said, we put in a vote of no confidence against him. Here's another criticism. This is from Themby. Cyril represents 49, not the majority of South Africans. And she's showing some of the comments here. Oh, maybe can't close it that way. But as you can see, there were people in the live chat of that conversation. And you can see people here saying, so disappointed in Ramaposa, Viva EFF, Viva EFF. I sense riot, Viva EFF. Like, yeah, they're not like a lot of support for EFF and not Ramaphosa there. And then I wanted to show you this as well. Channel 4 on the Oval Office ambush. Let's get to this part here where one of the white South African farmers, or one of the white South Africans, he does speak here. I want you to hear what he says.
Death, horrible death.
Trump's claims about violence against white South Africans aren't new. He said the same during his last administration, only this time he has a white South African by the name of Elon Musk as his right-hand man. May have stepped back from government, but he was in the room today to witness the dressing down of his country's president in the latest episode of the White House ambush.
Well, let's take a closer look at some of the claims President Trump made about South Africa. Joining me now from Johannesburg is the political journalist and broadcaster Stephen Crutus. Now, let's look at first at that video of the crosses. Trump, repeated the fake claim of Elon Musk that these represented, these were the graves of murdered white farmers. What were they looking at, in fact?
Well, from what I can work out, Christian, good evening, they were looking at a monument that's called Wit Kruis, or Plaas Moorde, which effectively means in Afrikaans sort of farm murders. And as I understand it, in fact, it commemorates, the crosses each commemorate the death of one black or white farmer. So, in other words, it's not just a monument for white farmers, it's a monument for all people killed on farms or farmers. I mean, we have a very large number of black farmers in South Africa too, and many of them have been the victims of violence in rural areas.
So I wanted everyone to hear that part there, because as he said, when there was a part when Donald Trump was showing like what he said were those graves or whatever, this gentleman here is explaining those aren't just graves of white South African farmers. Those are also black South Africans. Those are also not just farmers. See, this is what I was saying to people. Like, you really have to do your own research. People just say stuff and people are like, oh my God, I can't believe that. No, that is false. Also, it's important to note too, one of the pictures that he showed, and we'll get to another one here as well. There was a woman on Breaking Points earlier, South African woman on Breaking Points earlier. One of those pictures that he said were graves. According to her, she said those were pictures from a demonstration in 2020. I don't know what to say, you guys, but like, people got to wake up. You got to do your own research. Like, it's just absolutely embarrassing. And for Cyril to sit there, and he knew that Donald Trump was telling lie after lie after lie. I mean, it was incredibly ridiculous. Simon Ataba also gave a little bit more info here about Julius Malema. He said that video that Trump played, the opposition figure in South Africa, I once sat down with Julius Malema in Lagos, Nigeria. At the time, the South African government had just expelled him from the ANC, where he served as the youth leader. This was in 2012. By 2013, he had formed his own political party. Nelson Mandela was still alive. Malema told me that although Mandela spent years in power and eventually handed over to someone else, nothing was being done to close the economic gap. And I want to jump to this part here. Malema built his movement by telling Black South Africans that political freedom had not brought economic independence. According to him, although only about 7% of South Africans are white, they still own over 70% of the prime land. The wealth remains in their hands. We have nothing. And until there is equality, including economic equality, there will not be true independence in South Africa. Here's something about that song. That song, he said, he was singing in the video, is the one they used to sing during apartheid, and they were being arrested, beaten, and killed. It was a war cry. People still sing it today. It's a violent song, Kill the Boer, but it's important to understand where it came from. It was born in struggle and resistance. So definitely shout out to Simon Ataba, who was definitely doing the damn thing in covering this. And another thing that he pointed out, that photo. So here's another one where lie after lie after lie. False claim. And I looked this up and saw this on other outlets as well. In an attempt to illustrate a so-called white genocide in South Africa, Donald Trump shared a photo that was actually taken in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The image intended to depict burial sites of white farmers instead shows Red Cross workers handling body bags following a mass prison break in Goma, DRC, where numerous women were reportedly assaulted and burned alive. This picture that he shows here, that's not South Africa. Like, we can't make this up, you guys. Like, we can't. I'm telling you, this is all meant to be a cover for the real genocide that is happening in Gaza. Trump even goes on here to say he doesn't expect anything to come from the case of against Israel and the ICJ, right while he's sitting right next to Cyril Ramaphosa. Listen.
What are you expecting on the ICJ case? Are you expecting South Africa to drop that? Is that what you're trying to do?
On which case?
The ICJ,
The International Criminal Justice.
I don't expect anything, to be honest. I really don't. I don't know. It's they've got a case. There's a lot of anger there, tremendous anger. I don't expect anything. We'll see what happens. We'll have
so you see that
ruling, and who knows what the ruling is going to mean.
While he's sitting right next to him, and he's asked about the case that South Africa has against Israel, the ICJ, Donald Trump says, I don't think anything's going to happen. I mean, it's just, I don't understand. Why are you smiling? Like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, why is he smiling? Well, what's funny? You know? And then this part, they even admitted to you what this is really about. Look at this. The White House admit the reason for targeting South Africa was because they took Israel to the ICJ. Right here from the White House, highlighted right here. In addition, South Africa has taken aggressive positions towards the United States and its allies, including accusing Israel, not Hamas, of genocide in the International Court of Justice. What did I tell you? That's what this is about. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it makes the U.S. look stupid. It really did. I sat there and I watched that conversation. I said to myself, something ain't right. And I don't know what President Ramaposa is doing, but for him to just sit there and just be like, ain't nothing funny. It's one of those times like my mom would say, like ain't nothing going on but the rent. Like, seriously, there's no way I could have been in that room. I don't know how the other press, reporters feel being in that room. And we just look dumb. This is why people think Americans are dumb. Like, literally. It's a Keith Sweat moment. Something just ain't right. Let's go to some of the comments in the chat. Darius said, why is he even explaining himself to Trump? Ashura says, this is why Phil Scott said Julius Malema should have been president, Sabby. I haven't seen his segment on this yet. Itoli said, Cyril is a puppet and the ANC is stagnant. It doesn't mean Trump is telling the truth. Thank you, Courtney. LMAO at Sharts. Thank you, Megay. Trump thinks that they're the same guy. Thank you, Jay. Elon had the gall to be there staring him down. I know, right? Shouldn't you go back to Tesla? Don't you got some stock that's falling somewhere? Isn't your Tesla stock plummeting, right? Oh my God. And thank you, JJ. These evil people can't be allowed in this country. FBAs will turn up and it will get bad real fast. It'll be interesting, that's for sure. For sure. Forget where I got that from. Oh, 40-day virgin. Yeah, the 40-day virgin. All right, we got one more story and then we'll do call in, ladies and gentlemen. The 40-year-old virgin. You guys remember that movie, right? The 40-year-old virgin, where he goes, oh, you know about that, right? He goes, yeah, for sure. Anywho, let's get to this. When I say that Israel has really fallen and they're losing international support, this is the perfect example. Mr. Piers Morgan, of all people, who spent almost every week since October 7th saying, but do you condemn Hamas? Apparently has some words for Israel and now is finally admitting that they want to exterminate all the people. I kid you not. You can see it here in this conversation with him and Mehdi Hassan. You can see he's even scratching his head right before he says it because he knows what's coming, right? Check this out.
This Mehdi, welcome back to Uncensored. Listen, you and I have talked about this war in Gaza for ever since it started, this phase of the 75-year conflict. And I have resisted going as far as you have done in your criticism of the Israeli government. I resist no more. I think we've reached common ground about what we view is happening and has been happening through this period of this blockade, which frankly is just starvation of the people there, including so many innocent young women and children. And I think that the incessant bombing and killing, and we don't know how many civilians have been killed, but it is on a daily basis. It looks like hundreds of people every day, with no apparent attempt, it seems to me, to have any real plan for how this ends or what happens when it ends, other than if you look at what Smodrich has been saying, probably the most right-wing member of a very right-wing government, he is talking in a genocidal language about kicking all the Palestinians out. So I think you and I have reached a place in the last few weeks where we are in agreement. But my question for you, Mehdi, is how does this end?
So the genocidal rhetoric coming from Smoltryk happened long time ago, over a year ago. There has been multiple genocidal rhetoric from Israel since after October 7th, also and prior to October 7th, if you really want to go back and look at some of the video footage. So that just didn't just happen overnight, Piers. Let me say something to you people, okay? You see, Piers got the memo, right? That now it's okay to criticize Israel. See, now it's okay for him to do it. Just like some others have gotten that memo. I've even seen some of the, active Zionists on social media. Past couple weeks, they had to change their tune because of the starvation, not allowing food to go into Israel. Into Gaza. You see, now it's okay to admit it, just like a lot of the media pundits who were very hesitant to condemn what Israel was doing when Biden was in office. The moment that Donald Trump won, I noticed their gears turned. All of a sudden, CNN was more willing to call out Israel. MSNBC was more willing to call out Israel once Donald Trump was in office. You see, now it's more acceptable, which also leads me to think, as I said before, when we talk about the shooting that happened in DC, this is also why I feel like the timing of all this is very suspect to me. Now it's a little bit more acceptable to call out Israel. It wasn't as acceptable to call them out right after October 7th. It wasn't as acceptable to call them out even part last year. It wasn't as acceptable. But now it seems to be more welcome. Let's hear what Mehdi says, and then we're going to go to another clip and showing you how he's changing his rhetoric.
I don't know the answer to that question, Piers, and I'm glad we're in agreement. I wish we weren't. Actually, I wish I had been wrong and you were right. I wish that a year ago when I said on your show, you said, well, if it's not about the hostages, what's it about? And I said, it's about depopulating Gaza. It's about conquering Gaza. I wish I'd been wrong. But as you said, Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister in the Israeli government, said this week, we are there to conquer, cleanse, and remain. Those are his words. We are disassembling Gaza, he said. We are leaving it as piles of rubble. He says, we're doing something that no one's done in the world before. He bragged out loud, and he said, yes, the Gazans will have to leave. So all of those things are stuff some of us were saying last year. I wish we hadn't been vindicated in this horrific way. The killing is ongoing. The starvation is ongoing. And look, I do hope that a dam is bursting. You mentioned the genocide word. Shmuel Lederman, who is an Israeli researcher of genocide, spent much of 2024 saying it's not a genocide, it's not a genocide. He was interviewed by a Dutch newspaper last week. He said, I've changed my position. It is a genocide. He said, in my field, there's a consensus among genocide scholars that it's a genocide. In fact, that Dutch newspaper interviewed 7 leading scholars of genocide. Every single one said, we think what's happening in Gaza is a genocide.
Yeah, more people have been changing their mind. And I've noticed it as well. So like I said, now is more acceptable to say so. Now, listen to how further this conversation goes when the other gentleman enters the conversation. Watch this.
Bring Mehdi to respond. I mean, the one thing I would say is Israel's ongoing refusal to allow international journalists to operate freely in Gaza is a suppression of us uncovering the reality. You say come into Gaza.
That's
actually
not true.
Is
Fox News.
No. Israel
Trey Yanks,
Israel has
CNN.
barred almost every international journalist from getting anywhere near it. You know that, and I know that, and it's
I'll be there
actually
for my 6th time.
Well,
next month.
it's unprecedented for international journalists to be banned in this way from a war zone. It's unprecedented, and it does beg the question, John, why? Now, Mehdi, your response to what John has said there.
Okay. Now, you know what was interesting about all that? Okay. Don't forget, last year, a number of people that came on the Piers Morgan show told Piers Morgan that Israel wasn't allowing journalists to go into Gaza, right? I think Abby Martin was one of the people that mentioned that. Like, we've seen a number of people. I think Aaron Mate also mentioned that one of the times that he was on there as well. But Piers didn't really want to. And then now all of a sudden he believes. I see the light. I see the light. Very interesting, isn't it? Like I said, now it's more acceptable to do so. Here's another one. Now, I don't know if you've seen this one also this week as well. He had a panel conversation. There's another one where he comes in to criticize Israel. Listen to this one.
Evidence that Hamas has been neutralized at all with this relentless bombardment. We've now had 6 times the tonnage of bombs that you saw in Nagasaki and Hiroshima combined on a space which is, I think, a third of the size of those 2 cities. And where have we got? We've got to a place where Hamas clearly still are there. They're clearly still holding these hostages, and Israel can't get them to release them, which suggests to me that Hamas's power base is still pretty much intact, or that process would have happened by now. And I don't see any end game or plan here, other than increasingly it seems that there are people on that government who just want to get rid of all the Palestinians, who want to just take over Gaza, and that will be it. And that is actually the very genocide that so many on the pro-Israeli side keep recoiling at hearing that word, because they say it's not genocide. Well, if you get rid of a whole people based on their ethnicity from an expansive land that is theirs, where they've been living, what else do you call it? So I got angry, and then everyone got angry at me, because everyone gets angry about everything you ever say about this war. But from where you sit, are you comfortable? Are you comfortable as an IDF reservist with what is now going on, with hundreds being killed every day, so many women, so many children in particular? Are you comfortable that there is a strategy here that is either working or is not just turning Israel slowly but surely into a global pariah?
So do you see what's happening is because the reality is Israel has killed a lot of women and children, and obviously not a lot of Hamas, right? Like, people see it. They're like, nah, but most of the people that you killed, and then not allowing food and aid to enter Gaza for 80 days. Like, that's another one, you know? But again, All of these things were said to Piers Morgan on this show of his by multiple people that came onto the show. And Piers was still playing his part of, but do you condemn Hamas? Right? Didn't all these people, didn't Abby Martin, didn't Aaron Mate, didn't Bree went on there, Katie Halper, didn't all these people explain to Piers Morgan what the plan was, what Israel's plan was? That they wanted the land and they wanted the people gone? Didn't they explain all this? Okay, so we'll go to another one. We're not going to get into that whole thing. Watch that when you get a turn, because there was a huge fallout between Jink and that other crazy dude next to him. Here's another one. Same show. Listen to this.
Let me ask you a question.
And this is the
Doron,
they need to be called out.
Doron, on October the 7th, how many members of Hamas were there?
About 25,000.
Okay, so you've had
how
what?
many now?
You've had nearly 20 months, one of the most superior military force in the whole Middle East. You've had 20 months. You've rained down bombs, which are 5, I think it's 5 or I can't remember the exact statistic, multiple times the tonnage of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You've rained it down on an area much smaller than those two cities combined. And yet you still haven't eliminated Hamas. You don't seem to be any nearer eliminating them because you still can't get the hostages back. At some point, you have to admit, don't you, that you cannot do this. This strategy is simply not working. All you're doing is killing more and more civilians. Where is the victory? You have failed. The most superior fighting force in the Middle East has failed to take out a ragbag collection of 25,000 terrorists. How? How have you failed so badly? You failed by letting them into Israel on October the 7th, and you failed to eliminate them now. And in fact, all the intelligence suggests that for everyone that you have killed in Hamas, they've been replaced by 5 more. That's what I read at the weekend. Now, maybe
that's typically how it works, because here's the thing. Israel has like top-notch intelligence. Okay. So they can see what they're hitting. Like they can use intelligence to see what's on your freaking shoe. That's how top-notch their intelligence is. So you have all this top-notch technology and intelligence, but you weren't able to defeat Hamas because that wasn't the goal. They didn't want the Palestinian people there anyway. They wanted them gone. Now, Piers owes a lot of people apologies. Piers needs to apologize to a lot of people. He's already on X telling people, that he's going to block them because now some of the people that were like, yeah, get him, Piers, get him, the pro-Israel side, now they're attacking Piers because he's calling out that they were starving the children and all that kind of stuff, right? So now they're turning on him as the world turns. And so now he's feeling that wrath. So he's been going back and forth with people on X about this, right? But then something told me something ain't right. Because then I saw this video from Loki. And Loki, I don't think he's been back on Piers since he called out his funding before. Listen to what Loki has to say about Piers Morgan's show. This is a clip from Loki on George Galloway.
Actually, first, I did want to address your very fascinating poll about whether Piers Morgan is, in fact, a useful idiot of Israel. Now, it's important that people are aware of the following information when they make the decision on the poll. Piers Morgan's show is, while he claims it's independent, it is still something that happens under the auspices of Rupert Murdoch's News Corp International. Now, Rupert Murdoch has a long relationship with Netanyahu, which is, of course, well known. But there's another aspect to Piers Morgan's show, which far less people know. His show is sponsored directly by ExpressVPN. Now, ExpressVPN, the sole owner of it is Cape Technologies. Cape Technologies is an Israeli company owned by Israeli billionaire Teddy Sagi. Now, during the war in Gaza, Teddy Sagi has given $3 million to Israeli soldiers, and he also provided $250,000 to help transport Israeli military personnel during the genocide. His co-founder at Cape Technologies is Kobi Menachemi, who was previously an employee of the Israeli spy group Unit 8200. And also the CEO of that organization, Cape Technologies, was previously Ido Ehrlichman, who was a soldier in Unit 217, the Duvdevan unit. They call them Musta'arabin. They go disguised as Arabs to carry out intelligence operations and assassinations against Palestinians, as we have seen a plethora of this sort in the recent period in Gaza, in Jenin, and other places. And the current head of accounting at Cape Technologies, very likely to be the person who allocates funding towards Piers Morgan or any of the other podcasts who are also sponsored by the Cape Technologies company ExpressVPN, is Liron Peer, who is also an alumni of Unit 8200. So here we literally see Piers Morgan, probably unbeknownst to him. I think he's completely aware of Rupert Murdoch's inclinations and associations, but I don't think he's so aware that ExpressVPN is a Cape Technologies owned enterprise, and Cape Technologies is literally directly related to the Israeli military.
Now you guys see why I don't take sponsorships. I told you before about the relationship he had with Rupert Murdoch and all that kind of stuff. And no, he's not truly independent. See what I was telling you, how some of these people, like some of these shows, they seem like they're independent. They put on like a independent, facade or whatever, but they're not. Something just ain't right. So, to Loki's point, that would also explain some of Piers Morgan's rhetoric. Because if you had that type of relationship with those companies and with Rupert Murdoch, who has a relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu, well, just connect the dots. Sounds like Piers was bought. We'll see if this holds. We'll see. We'll sit back and wait and see if this new Piers Morgan, if this new position that he has, if it holds. We'll see. But like I said, it's more acceptable to say it now. All right, guys, we are going to do call in. Eric, I think there's a couple of chats to go to, like super chats and stuff to go to, as well as on Rumble. And I'll be back and we'll dive
Pierce,
into
is that like new Coke? New Pierce, new Coke? All right. So this is the part of the show we give Sabby a bit of a break, and we'll be transitioning over to the Zoom Hangout that we kind of call Zoom Call-In, because it used to be called Call-In, but they killed the Call-In app, but we're still doing it on Zoom. And so I jump in here from the background into the foreground. We also have, Corey in the background, who's been always holding down the fort too. And let's see what we got. Well, yeah. So this whole the Piers Morgan thing. I mean, you could almost call it like the Trump effect, right? It's like now that it's Trump's war and Trump's genocide, all of a sudden, a light bulb is like allowed to go off in Piers Morgan's head. It's hard to know how much of it is calculation, how much of it is just maybe he's just not that bright or what. But now all of a sudden he said, "Oh, it's a genocide," like slow learner. But yeah, it's the main factor is the Trump factor. That now it's the playbook, or maybe the memo's gone out that we can tie it to Trump. It can be Trump's war. Let's see. Oh, yeah, but come on into the Zoom Hangout, Zoom Call-In Hangout that will be starting after the show. Sabby's creating the room now, and then we'll be giving you the link, and we'll also set it up on sabbysabs2.com. But we'll set that all up shortly. But in the meantime, let's look at some super chats. But yeah, come into the Zoom Hangout and talk about this, talk about other things, give us your theories. But thank you very much, Dana Mitchell, for the very generous super sticker. Appreciate that. Appreciate you. And Saul Construct, yes, thanks for that super sticker as well. And yeah, Crystal was saying, why is he finally admitting it? And yeah, that's my theory, which I think is pretty obvious, that it's Trump's war now. And thanks for the super chat from Real Fraudulence, who says, but Piers, do you condemn Hamas? I know it's like the old Piers would confront the new Piers and say, do you condemn Hamas? And then the new Piers would say, oh, well, it's complicated. And then the old Piers would say, no, it's simple. Do you condemn Hamas? And then the new Piers would say, well, it's Trump and Bibi. That would be maybe they can AI that, old Piers Morgan taking on new Piers Morgan. Joyce was saying, Pierce is gonna cover the embassy staff murders. Yeah, we'll see what he does. And I think we also got a couple here on the old Rumble rant. Let's see what we got up in there. Thanks for the Rumble rant from Goo over there on Rumble, saying they're going after South Africa because South Africa took Israel to court. Keep in mind, Israel supported and gave nuclear weapons to apartheid South Africa to dominate their neighbors. Yes, that sounds like a good theory. We got a little bit more here from Goo. And thanks for this one as well. He says Mandela would not have played around. And we got more in there. Let's see. Let's make sure I'm getting the right ones here. Okay, we got the Mandela. All right. And thanks for this Rumble rant Goo saying, I just realized regarding Embassy and E. Rodriguez that they're saying in the Esther Project from foreign actors working to destabilize the USA and Israel. It's a false flag to promote strikes on Iran. And thanks also for this one. Goo on the Rumble rant saying, I believe this is about the current South African president saying his predecessor had the balls to say no to the USA and Starlink and joined BRICS. Yeah, there certainly does seem to have been a turnaround there from old into new. Let me just readjust these. This over there. Here we go. All right, but in general, like with the first story and the potential for a coming crackdown, what that kind of says to me is that it's really critical now for us, people who get how these things are really working, and it's critical for us to come together. And I think the real chance that we have to come together and make a difference is if we do that behind a set of clear demands. And even like if we look at let me see if I can bring that up quick here. Let me just kick a little screen around, kick that one there. Sorry, just kicking around the screens here a little bit in the background. Come on, there we go. And let's put up the old 11demands.org. Here we go. In what's in there is if you dig into them, sorry, just scrolling around. One of the really clear ones is about censorship. So, by the way, this site is 11demands.org, and please do go on there and check it out. It's really easy to find. Just look up 11 Demands. There's the 11 Demands pledge that I'm encouraging everyone to check it out and join us in the 11 Demands Thought Collective. It's kind of it's 11 Demands Collective, which I'm calling kind of a thought collective. You can enter your name in here. You can do an optional URL. You just say that you're not a robot, and you can get through and be added to the 11 Demands Collective page. And this kind of functions as a petition of sorts, but it's kind of the public face of 11 Demands to say that this is a group of us who these are our demands. This is our policy statement. These are the things that we feel need to happen. And we can talk about this in call-in too, if anyone has questions or, about the whole thing. But what I wanted to hit here quickly was, a major one of the demands is, about censorship. And, sounds like they're talking about this crackdown, coming, that, this censorship issue may, really become, a real thing to worry about. And so one of them is, one of the major demands of the 11 is reject censorship. And so, there's this idea, protect freedom of speech from censorship, whether from government, or corporations, and the persecution of whistleblowers, break up these large national media corporations. Basically, they need to be nationalized, reorganized, democratized. And, we're going to have to get real about this, disallow deletions and deplatforming except via a due process that's transparent and fair, prohibit government agencies from using big tech for backdoor censorship. We can, there's also the whole thing with the algorithms. It's a big topic. Also, prohibit the collection of all this data. So that's kind of, my real connection with this story tonight. Like you're saying, the censorship is coming.
Yep.
And we need to be clear.
I'm warning you guys right now, like, and we can talk about it on call in, but it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big deal. And this is why I was, a strong advocate for it against the censorship, because I just know. And if it's not this issue, it could be another issue, regardless if you agree with what's said or what's not said. Like, this whole idea, people are going to be afraid to be around people. People are going to be afraid. Like, you're going to start to see people pull away from, mark my words. But the link is.
So what's critical, if I could just also throw on, is what's critical is we need the numbers, right? We need to be, we need to be not just one of us or two of us. This needs to be thousands of us. This needs to be millions of us making these demands and being clear about it. And that's what the collective is trying to spark.
And make sure, guys, like, if you're following like a commentator on YouTube, make sure you also follow us on Rumble. Make sure you follow us on Rockfin. All my links are, like on my website, and also in the details description of all my videos. Make sure you're just, like, I have backup and all my videos are backed up on a hard drive, but that's not the case for everybody. But just be prepared, guys. Just be prepared. Okay, let's go ahead and do call in, ladies and gentlemen. That link is pinned to the top of the chat. I'm going to go ahead and open the room. I just want to remind everybody again, please be rather quick with your responses, because we know people are waiting, and sometimes people have to wait so long that they don't get a chance to speak. If you want to speak, you just raise your hand. You do so by clicking on that at the bottom of the screen on the Zoom chat, so I know that you want to speak. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and head over there, and then I will make Eric co-host.
Must be.
Yeah, people are already in. Yeah.
All right.
You can also find it if you come in just a little bit later. You can find that link on sabbysabs2.com, the link to the call in, and you can join that way as well.
All right. I will see you all in the Zoom hangout.
All right, Eric, let me go ahead and make you a co-host before I forget. And then everyone that's in the Zoom, just make sure that you mute yourself, and we'll go ahead and head on over to the call-in. All right, guys, thank you so much. I'll be live again tomorrow night. Torrin Walker and Marcus Farrell are going to be guests tomorrow night. We're going to talk about a big issue happening in Atlanta. So don't miss that. And we'll also have news. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.